go ahead and get this thing started. Full agenda as always. Who's mopping up here today? Karen's on the end, so Karen's going to have to talk fast. All right, so before we get started, I do want to introduce Michael Sherman. Michael Sherman has joined the ADUA asset team. He is leading up the Public Safety Interoperability Communications Office, the 911 Office, Public Safety Broadband, the broadband project, and we're also working with the Governor's Office to put together a business case for implementing a statewide education network. And so he's got a few things to keep him occupied. So we're very happy to have Michael Sherman down. So with that, Justin, do you want to do roll call?
Sure. Chairman Kennedy.
Here.
Chief Lennon. Present. Chief Brown.
Here.
Chief Fun.
Here.
Chief Campbell. Chief Chappell. Chief Hancock. Director Arancia. Here. Chief Glenn.
Here.
Chief Chavez.
It's really hard to hear you guys.
Thank you. And Captain Morrell. Here.
Say it again.
And we have a quorum. And I apologize, we don't have a phone line in the building, so we're working off of two other phones, so we'll try to speak loudly.
It's just really hard to hear you here, so if you called Hawaii, I don't know if Todd responded, but I'm on the phone with Victoria.
Victoria, I think your call is probably in 2 more hours. Can you give Michael Britt a call?
Say it again.
I think your call's not for a few more hours. Can you give Michael Britt a call?
Well, I can do that. No wonder I couldn't get on here. I will do that. Thank you. Bye.
By the way, that's the state of Hawaii. We have a quorum, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's what we get for sharing resources. The one and only action item this meeting is approving the PSCC meeting minutes from July 16th. You guys should all have a copy of those. If there are any questions or discussion around those? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. You get those names, Justin? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Meeting minutes are approved. With that, moving on to an update from Captain Mike Worrell, Public Safety Communications following the Yarnell fire tragedy.
Just to have a few brief, we put together something to talk about the I start getting phone calls, like this, like 6, about procession that's going to go up to Yarnell. So the firefighters just brought down to the county executive office. We started hearing about this procession. So one of the first things I started doing was gathering information on the procession. How we went about 20 minutes, law enforcement, fire support, fire. I was going to be on I-17 work. This is good because we have areas covered. The agencies involved would be DPS, Phoenix Fire, Phoenix PD, Air Support, DPS Ranger. We had some customers, unfortunately, who they were. So from this, I start looking at, what interoperability issues am I going to have? Trying to get these people to talk together. So DPS They're on UHF, Phoenix PD's on 7800, Phoenix Fire is on 7800 and VHF, and then Prescott PD was on VHF. Its plan was to use theirs, that conflict, and allow them all to talk to each other. If they all had tax and the errors programming in their radio, that was also done. So on July 7th, things always change. You know, I teach comm tech class, comm leader class, you always have a backup. Now the route changed from going Carefree Highway through Darnell up to Wickenburg. Again, same agency. So again, we've got the same interoperability issue. The only thing that's different is AIRS doesn't cover this route. Cover it well. The other thing is there's a lot of motor officers. We found out there's maybe large motorcycle officers. That poses unique interoperability problems. A lot of times we'll hand people two radio systems to this interoperability channel and operate their own package. The motor officer has their own phone, they have a radio, they can't carry the radio, and listen to another radio at the same time. So we had to do something for them. So we have a UOPI fund as we call it, communications stability fund. The plan was to provide a mobile pass that would travel up with the convoy. So basically, they would have a bubble coverage that they would be able to go in, they would be able to talk to each other, the channels patched together. The other thing that we've done in the past, in urban search and rescue, we'll take one of these vehicles, we'll put it in the middle of the convoy, and we'll set up on a repeater down. We'll have repeated communications from end to end. That allows the lead vehicle to talk to the chase vehicle, so if someone calls off, you can maintain accountability for all the vehicles that are in the convoy. The last issue is getting communications back to our dispatch centers, and also including the press to let them know where we were at. So for that, we have satellite communication. So, looking at a convoy, what do you need? You need end-to-end communication from front to back. It allows you to maintain accountability, provide support if you have breakdowns, or just support, also medical. And then we're planning to use a mobile repeater for that. Then we're using mobile patch for motor officers. So that will allow for inter-convoy communications with disparate radio stations. And long-range communications, we use SATCOM to get to Phoenix Fire Dispatch, Phoenix PD Dispatch, Prescott Valley, Prescott Fire Dispatch. That will be by call. So, one of the things I do want to go on these deployments is, like I said, Blake's been in my contract, and I always been an advocate of carrying the book around and making notes. So I was on the phone with Dave Steele yesterday, patch, there were some officers, when I talked to some officers, there was well, some didn't, but took notes and it was done.
The conference bridge appears to be open, but I'm not sure I can hear what's going on in the background.
Yeah, we can't hear the presenter at all. He needs to be closer to a telephone or a microphone or something.
Yeah, it's very faint.
Over here. I sent a chat to the presenter, but apparently he's not reading his chat.
You can hold this or flip. Stick it right on the footing here. Okay. Can you? Can folks hear on the phone?
We can hear that. I can hear you ask if we can hear you, but I can't hear anything else.
All right. See if this works better.
Much better.
Yes, better.
Okay. So the plan was to use this patch for the motor officer. But again, like I said, you can see I have some notes up there. DPS motors. We're going to patch UTAC 41. You see UTAC 1A there, and what kind of radio do they have? APX, VHF, whatever. So I'm trying to find out all that information as we go. So one of the things, the issues that communications people have with these incidents is coordinating their efforts with operations. So in this case, we need to connect the motor officer. So I need to talk to whoever that escort, who's in charge of escort, find out who was in there, find out what interoperability channels they had in their radios. And this was difficult. I mean, if you ask a Phoenix PD motor officer, hey, what 7-TAC channels do you have in your radio? Most of them aren't going to be able to answer that question. Or an 8-TAC channel. They don't know what that is because they don't go there. Luckily, I have some knowledge of their channel plan, so I was able to figure it out that they would. And then we also have PD communications personnel that were available to help me out with that. Prescott Valley, they must be in a different situation because I asked their motor officers, do you have any VTAC channels in your radio? And they said, yes, we do. So we flip to it and they go there because they probably use it more than a Phoenix motor officer would. And then last was DPS. You saw in my notes I had a UTAC 1A and a UTAC 41 written on that note page. The reason that was written there is because when I went to the DPS motor bike and I said, what interoperability channels do you have in your radio? They go, I don't know. I said, you have any UTAC? I think so. So let's go in your radio and look. So we started looking. So I see a UTAC 41 on one motorcycle, and I go to another motorcycle and I see UTAC 1. So my guess is that the naming conventions didn't get programmed into the old bike. So we did some testing and found out UTAC 1 was the same as UTAC 41, and we're able to patch all these things together. The other thing we ran into was the officer's previous experience with communications on incidents. So one of the officers from one of the agencies, I go, we're going to try and get you communications so you can talk to DPS, Phoenix PD, and Prescott Valley. And they go, yeah, right. They've spent millions of dollars on radio systems, and we can't even talk to each other on a normal day-to-day basis, and you're going to do this on the way up there? I go, just give me a break and see if we can work through it. So I wrote down that guy's name, and we went on our way. So we start headed up Yarnell. When it got to Yarnell Hill, it was about 119. So we stopped there for a water break, and that's the first guy I looked for. I said, were you able to hear those other officers? He goes, yeah. He goes, you guys are fire, right? You got money. So the last thing is the convoy IC. So the communications vehicle, if you're going to use it as a repeater or to patch within that convoy, where would it need to logically be within that convoy? Probably in the middle. Well, they had us at the very end. So I had to go to whoever the convoy IC was and say, hey, we need to get moved up into the convoy near the middle. So they accommodated us and we were able to do a little bit better. So there's the convoy communications plan. Prescott Valley was on a VTAC channel. Phoenix PD was on an ATAC. DPS was on a UTAC. Now I could have put Phoenix Fire on this VTAC channel with them. The only reason I didn't was because when I got up to Yarnell Hill, we wanted Prescott and Prescott Valley to be able to hear us, and we knew they had coverage up on top of there. So we put ourselves on State Fire 4 or B Fire 21 in the National Naming Convention. So when we got on top of the hill, they'll be able to hear us, be able to prepare for us arriving. So we get up there. So once we get there, there's some things we need to do once we get there. What's in place, what needs to be done, and what's going to be happening in the next few days. So we found out there was an IMT in place for the memorial. It was an all-hazard zone. But these were mostly Forest Service personnel that had been moved over and were handling an all-hazards incident now. So when I went to see the COML that was in the IMT, I said, what's the 205? Are you familiar with what a 205 is? The Incident Communications Plan. So I look at the 205, and all I see on there are National Forest Service frequencies. I said, you know that when these fire trucks come in here, these guys aren't going to be able to program these radios up like what you have written on this plan, right? He goes, no. Well, this guy that was in this IMT had never operated outside the Forest Service system, so he didn't have a good idea of the capabilities of the resources that were coming up to support this incident. So I said, we're going to have to make some changes. I said, you know about the NIFOG. There's some NIFOG back there. A little blue book has all the national interoperability frequencies there. Have you ever seen one of these? And he goes, no. I said, well, there's frequencies in here we can use. And he goes, well, who has to authorize this? Basically, we do. The next thing I did was I found out who the local contacts were. Now, we've been talking about TIC-Ps in here for a long time. What does a TIC-P give? What information does a TIC-P give me? What resources are in that area? Are there cache radios in that area? Are there mobile gateways, portable repeaters, those kinds of things? So, is there a TIC-P? So I called somebody up there. Eluding me right now. But anyway, cache radios, interoperability plans, and systems. That's what I'm looking for. And the last thing is dispatch centers. Who are the dispatch centers up there, and what are they dispatching? Because those dispatch centers are the coordination point for all the communications in that area. And then developing a communication plan. Who are the players? What radios are they bringing? Because if they're bringing up radios and I need to reprogram, I need to make sure I have the software and the cables and those kinds of things. What bands and what are the coverage requirements for the incident? So this is what I found out when I got a hold of local contacts. And one of them was Tad Coiner from the city of Prescott Fire. And these people are all capable of running incidents like this. But what you find is when an area is impacted, they have so much going on just in support of their own city that they aren't able to sustain and take on all this extra work. But what I found was there were no cache radios available because the Yarnell fire itself, they had taken the cache radios and were using them somewhere else. And what I found for the interoperability system, AIRS had poor coverage, didn't cover the entire incident area that I would need to operate in, and it had spotty coverage, so I was unsure whether it would work or not. One of the other things that happened was there was the Phoenix RWC has high site coverage up there, but that was also spotty. I didn't know exactly what the footprint of that was. And then again, found out the dispatch centers, phone numbers and contacts at the dispatch centers, we were all met. Players, we had over 100 agencies that sent resources up there. There were trucks from Yuma, all over the place. I mean, all the way up there, all North Phoenix, in northern Arizona, we had response from up there too. Radios, all different brands. What bands? All different bands. And then coverage requirements. Prescott Valley, Chino Valley, and then who knows where else, because these guys were from all over the country, and we're going to have to support moving their remains wherever they need to go in the end. And then also, we had one that ended up being buried in Yarnell. So this is the coverage footprint of AIRS. The thing about these coverage maps are predictions. They aren't actual coverage. So when you look at these, is you actually have to go out and make sure that coverage is there. And so what I found was, even though Prescott's right up in here, even though it's all yellow, coverage is spotty. We had over 100 different agencies sent to assist. They all brought their home radios. So what kind of difficulty does that pose for the ComTech or the ComL that's operating on that incident? So now I have firefighters coming from all over the place, and they don't know that their radios are programmed with those interoperability channels. I have to go to each one individually and find out, do you have your national interoperability channels in your radio? If they say yes and they know, then great. If they don't, then it's like, okay, let's take a look and see if we can find it. And you're on the Easter egg hunt. So that takes time. So that's part of identifying the commonalities, is the interoperability frequencies, and finding out who the field person is. So one of the things that when we go to these things is we find out that we don't always have enough radios to hand out. There weren't 100 cash radios that I could hand out to each agency that showed up. And each agency showed up, fire trucks, we travel in packs, so there's 4 guys per agency that are there, so I need 4 radios for those guys for them to operate. So I don't have that number of radios to support that. So what we do is use that command structure to your advantage. Is these agencies that showed up, try to keep them as a functional group, give them one tactical objective, give them a command radio and their division radio, and give them a local from that area so that they have coverage to the local radio system to get access to the command structure. So some people may do their home radio, but it'll be one of theirs and one command radio from the incident. One of the other things I teach in comm classes, they always say, well, when you show up, they're going to have an ICS 201 filled out with a command structure. So I go, when I showed up there, I said, I get with the INT, I said, who's handling EMS? And so I go to the guy handling EMS. I said, do you have a 201? He goes, no. I said, what do you got? A piece of paper. Sometimes it's on a napkin. Sometimes it's on brown paper bag, whatever. But that was the command structure for that incident. Smartphones are great because you just snap a picture and you have a copy of it. So law enforcement, what we found was they had the most wide range of radios. They were on 700, 800, UHF. They ran the gamut. So in their operational plans, again, assign those agencies a tactical objective and pair them with the local. So you have one person in local agency that ties to the command structure, and you may have 5, 10 personnel from a different agency that are paired up with that person. So maintain accountability and you reach back to that person. So the fire operation up there, we were able to use the Prescott channel for our our operational channel for command. That was there just as chance because they were bringing up a new channel. It hadn't gone online yet. So one of the things that we did is I called down to Phoenix and tech support, our IT department, they programmed up 50 radios and had them up for the next day. And a lot of times our techs don't give the credit they're due. I mean, those guys sit at the bench and they're doing all this work. They don't get to go hand out the radio and they aren't standing in front of the crowd, but there's all this work that, the result wouldn't happen if they weren't there working at their benches. So it's always important to thank those people. But we had, we were operating on a command channel. It was on VHF. Luckily, most fire departments are on VHF. We had the cash radios, and the common thing there that we have is Fire Mutual Aid channel, Fire 4. And since most fire agencies are on VHF, they had access to that channel on their radios. So when they showed up, we told them to stage on channel 4, would contact you and tell you where to go. So remember I always said, talking about a backup plan? So we had areas of poor coverage. They were going, okay, we'll use cell phones there. Well, who's been around Prescott? Who's gone out in the woods in Prescott, hunting or whatever? Is the coverage really great there? No. So that was going to be an issue. And then we had an equipment failure. That Fire 4 that we were relying on, just so happened their transmitter, their PA went out. They weren't able, we were able to talk in, but their dispatch center couldn't talk back to us. So again, we started using the communications Suburban. We would send that thing out. We'd ran that thing all day long. And we would use, we had long haul communications through our satellite communications. And then what we had them use was tactical communications on the ground, giving them one of those national interoperability channels that they operate on the ground with. That division suit will tell the communications operator in the Suburban, I need you to report this back to command back in Prescott. And that's how the communications chain went. We had satellite phone systems if they needed phones, data systems. One of the things that started happening up there, weather started rolling in. And during one of the funerals, we had the interment site dug and everything. Well, it was raining so hard, that hole was filling up with water. We were having to get it out. And then we had lightning on top of that, so we didn't want our personnel. We had the ladders up and all that stuff. We had to get our personnel away from those structures when the weather was rolling in. And the last thing we did was some video streaming, so we were able to see some on-site what was going on at the site, and that was important because they were using the requests from the families whether they used Prescott rigs or funerals. So how many fire trucks does Prescott have? How many ladder trucks does Prescott have? And they're running multiple funerals in one day. So they would set up for one funeral, and they would have to break down that apparatus and move it to the next one. And all that had to be done in the timeline. And if it didn't make it, the funeral would be held up. So video streaming became important because we could see, okay, they're breaking down, start getting them ready to move, moving to the next site. There was one firefighter that was from near Santa Barbara, and firefighter Meisner, and so this was posing a difficult issue. His wife was driving his pickup back. That was her wish was to drive him back. They drove this drive every year to Prescott. He was a seasonal worker, so they drove out there every year. So she wanted to drive him home the same way they came out. She was pregnant. She was probably she's in her second or third trimester of pregnancy. And so we tried to talk. We said, we'll transport the truck out. And with the help of the 100 Club, AZPSIC wife, they were trying to get that all arranged. But her wishes were, I'm driving him. I don't care what you say. Driving. So the community up there, she had this pickup truck, and they're making this long drive, and there was concerns about the mechanical condition of the vehicle. So the community up there, they fixed the truck, got it ready. So we arranged for a Forest Service escort to take her up there. So now we want to maintain, we have responsibility to get that person from Prescott to Santa Barbara and maintain accountability of them all along the way. So how many of you are on Facebook, my friends on Facebook? Well, I pulled out my friend, all the people I friended over the years. I called Kevin Rogers up and said, I got a problem. We're sending these people across the desert, they're driving across. I need contact with GPS for these people as they move across radio channels. So he gets me the radio frequency for the GPS calling channel. We program up a radio. I give them the radio. So now I have CHP. They didn't have any contact with CHP, so he worked his end. Didn't come up with anything there. So I had a friend of mine from LA County Fire. I remember that a friend of mine said that, hey, I had this buddy who got me out of a ticket. I said, well, if you can get him out of a ticket, you can get me a phone number. So I give him a call and said, hey, I need contact with CHP as these people move from the Arizona border all the way to Santa Barbara. So they got me contact information for all the dispatch centers along that route going to Santa Barbara. The last thing was so this was giving us our accountability, how we're going to maintain accountability for them. The last piece was that we want to maintain contact with that unit as they went all the way across with her to make sure that she got there, if they ran into any trouble, that we could do, make those phone calls that we could make back in Prescott, get them logistical support or whatever help they needed. So we gave them a satellite phone. This unit that we gave them actually has a press-to-talk function on it, so it acts like a radio. You key it up, talk on it like it's a trunk radio system in the sky. So we gave them that, and we sent them across. And this is a picture of them going, I think it was into Ventura County. So firefighters were lined up all along that route. But they got there safely. The Forest Service guy made him sign his life away, give me credit card numbers and all that kind of stuff, so made sure I got the equipment back. And it was equipment that I hadn't officially got permission to take up there, so I want to really make sure that I got it back. So during that week, services and transport remains were carried out for the 19 following. So the communication unit, some of the things, what knowledge, skills, and abilities do they have? Do they have, one of the big deals was having some locals there to support whatever that incident was going on. Because without that local support, the dispatch centers, the City of Prescott Fire being able to use that command channel, it's been a little bit tougher. And then the impact of the event. What's the impact of the event on that local area? And how's it impacting you as a communication unit? So some of the closing points of this was the communication unit. The issue with the traveling patch, I mean, that's something that we don't typically train for. And we haven't done it, with our law enforcement partners. Fire hasn't done it with our law enforcement partners. We've done it within the USAR world or the search and rescue world, but we haven't done it in that world. So one of the things we do with our comm unit field days and things like that, we train amongst ourselves as communications, but we need to expand that training out to the operations people so that they're actually using the equipment that we're putting out to support them, because we're out there to support operations. And if they don't understand the little idiosyncrasies, like when you key up and you got to wait a second for that repeater to grab, those kinds of things, then they're going to not be familiar with it, and they're going to take that as an equipment failure. The equipment, know what equipment you have, what equipment's available. Try to think of what equipment you're going to need to support the effort that you're going to be doing up there. And again, the relationships. The relationships are always a big deal. Find all your friends in Facebook or whatever. You pull out your old address book and you're starting to look people up. Reach out for help. Airs. Coverage and the capacity of air. I mean, airs is good on a limited basis. It provides one patch channel between disparate systems. So that creates a capacity issue. You can't support a large operation on that. So I think we need to look. This commission was actually formed to look at building a statewide system. I think we need to refocus ourselves on doing some of that, because this does not get the job done. National interoperability channels, the training. Phoenix Fire is as guilty as Phoenix PD is not training our personnel what these national interoperability channels are. Our officers need to know where to go on those radios to find out where those channels are in the event that they go to something like this, or somebody's coming in to support us, because, say, the National Guard comes in to assist Phoenix, they have access to national interoperability channels. Then the statewide communication system, we don't have one, but that provides interoperability, because if you have a statewide communication system, not everybody needs access to it, but at least it provides a connection to command to provide a wide area footprint to cover a whole incident. Up there we had patchwork of coverage that we had to work around to support. And that brings along with it the capacity, and like I said, the coverage footprint. Okay. Any questions on that?
I have questions. Thank you for your presentation. That is fascinating, how you're able to react. The question I have is, you talked about that sort of build you had a response to allow for interoperability as you move. How long do you estimate it to get that figured out and in place?
Once I found out who the players were and then we had the channels in there, that rig is pre-programmed with all those national interoperability channels, so that capability is built in that vehicle. So long as that common connection point, the national interoperability channels are there, we can do that like that. But it's like, I'd show up and I'd say, hey, you have the channels in there, and if they don't know, then I'm playing detective. Trying to find that information out.
Now, probably the challenging, right? I mean,
yes.
I can understand people wouldn't necessarily know what that was.
And the other thing, we don't do typically as agencies is we don't carry a channel plan around, on our vehicles that shows, what those channels are in that radio. And then the other issue we have with the naming conventions, keeping radios up to date as far as the naming conventions, that was an issue also.
I heard a lot of really great things about that, and that I'm very impressed. It's great to see that kind of thing come into play. Obviously, it's such a tragedy. The second question I have is, I was kind of surprised, does Kevin Rogers have Facebook?
He was one of the ones that didn't. I don't do Facebook myself, so I was old school and taking out the address book and looking at my contact list. And so, but some of the newbies always have the Facebook thing.
Was any consideration given to leveraging the FEMA Region 9 cache of radios in Sacramento? I believe they have 5,000. They can go anywhere.
We actually had, the Forest Service actually had cache radios there on the ground, and we did utilize those. And for the people that didn't have access to that Prescott VHF command channel, as we were programming that up into those radios and we were handing those out. So we handed those National Interagency Fire Center radios out. And then we also had another cache of radios that came up in addition to the 50 that I listed there that were the tri-band Harris radios. So they had the interoperability channels in 7, 8, D, well, and U. So that radio provided a great amount of flexibility in being able to program that channel plan in there and say, here, you know, if you're doing this, go to this channel. And over there, I'll find it out and go to this channel. Okay.
You have on your team.
Well, on the ride up there, you know, we're all faced with money issues. So on the ride up there, they said, okay, we'll send you and 2 other people up there to run the Suburban, get up there, and then the idea was that we were just going to go and we were going to come back. So once we got up there and we met with the INT, there were some people that we need you to stay. So my boss was going to say, okay, you can stay. And then so the other 2 people who were with me, basically my techs, they took off. And they took off to go to eat because it was a long day. So I got to looking around. I said, you know, I'm pretty alone here. And there's this Forest Service guy, and he's alone too. And he doesn't know my world, and I don't know his world. So I'm going to be pretty. I call my boss up and say, hey, I need to keep at least one of those people. So they let me keep one person. So it was me and another guy, the Forest Service guy, and then he actually had one other person with him. That was it. Then the other support we got was from the local station, just information-wise. But again, that support that reached back to Phoenix, our technical department at home, that was huge. Because those guys, they dropped everything they were doing to support what we were doing up there, to make sure we had the equipment we needed in hours. So hats off to that.
So given all the lessons learned from this, and obviously this is certainly challenging, a lot of work. Actually, created a form, figure out, God forbid, the next time something happens, and hopefully it won't, that it'd be easier for the next person to create that.
I think I would say yes and no. There was an overall incident after action for the whole memorial service piece. But I don't think there was I didn't do a communications focused one, so maybe that's something I could write up to the Justice office to have that. Because I think, like you're saying, those lessons learned can be taken and turned into what our training plan is going to be and our exercise plan is going to be in the future.
And on that, Mike, beginning this is why I was listening here, OEC is just not about saying new PAs, it doesn't cost the state to do incident-specific backgrounds for the level of 10,000. If you and your team are up for it, we can request the OEC.
That was actually handled by the airport, and the Forest Service had a air support unit there, and so they handle all the aircraft.
Call up Mountain Crane,
So
$200.
we didn't have to mess with that, which was fortunate.
So get authorization, maybe I can
Get a fire guy out waving an airplane.
We'll go check that for you real quick. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Guess I'm next up on your agenda. I'm David Felix with the Executive Director of the Regional Wireless Cooperative. I wanted to segue these photos off of Mike into my presentation. The one thing about it was very sophisticated. Disregard that big vehicle. On the right, you see what we call a communication tower that Mike set up with an antenna. On the next slide, you'll note that it was securely fastened as per all the rules and regulations that you have to have with duct tape up onto that beam. I was asking our IT director over Radio Communication Services why we couldn't replicate this on mountaintops. $50, Home Depot, and he thought that might not meet standards. I told Mike I thought this was pretty sophisticated. He said it was more like Duck Dynasty probably than that. I was up there that weekend. I couldn't resist taking these photos. Go ahead, next photo. The next one just is his comm center. You know that we talk about sophisticated comm centers, most of his laptops. Next photo. You know, Mike hard at work. You know, he was alone. There was not a lot of empty chairs there. Next one, he had when he got up on top of this tower, he was admonished because he's not tower trained to climb a tower and do maintenance on it. So you don't see it, but in the next photo, we had 4 firefighters, one holding each leg down there while he removed this antenna as he moved on. Next photo. And then he had a very sophisticated mounting system for his satellite antenna to communicate into California and all that, along with the crime scene tape that kept everybody from tripping over wires and things like that. So it's kind of funny, but it's not. Go ahead with the presentation. That in fact, you know, it's very fortunate that he's trained and he has the kind of resources available to be able to do what they did up there. But at the same time, that we don't have a system whereby programmed radios can immediately go to common talk channels and be able to communicate in an instant like that. And although it doesn't happen very often, it happens in small ways every single day for most of our agencies. So what we had, we hosted was an Arizona Public Safety Commission's advisory, or Communications Advisory Commission. What am I reading here? Arizona Public Safety Communications System Administrators Forum. We thought we would get together in this initial meeting members or the administrators of the large multi-agency regional systems around the state. We held it on June 25th. I was going to try to present in Flagstaff. You had a big agenda then, so we weren't able to be there. But it brought together, I believe it was 8 major systems that were going to discuss some very basic issues where we had never done this before. We have casual conversations with each other on these regional systems, but as far as any kind of a formal setting for that, we've never done that. These are the ones that we invited to this initial session. Department of Public Safety with Kevin Rogers, and they almost all brought technical staff with them that were in attendance. Some of those folks are in here today. Maricopa County Wireless System with Tom Crosby, who is one of their deputy CIOs. Northern Arizona Regional Communications System, NAU Chief G.T. Bowler was there along with his staff. He came from Mesa PD originally, and he is very familiar with this whole issue of radio communications interoperability. Chief Doug Mummert from Phoenix Fire. Fire has one of the largest systems, the VHF system that they use across the valley for fireground communication. Captain Paul Wilson, I understand he's since been promoted with the Pima County Wireless Integrated Network. I was there for the RWC. Topaz Regional Wireless Cooperative was Dale Shaw, and then Yuma Communication System was Greg Wilkinson. So we met to just have a discussion to first of all understand some of the issues, the basic issues of each system. What do they look like technically? How are you operating those? Some things that might be unique about those. But for the most part, these systems are all P25 digital trunk systems. So they all meet the same standard, and we could interoperate off of every one of those. So the baseline function of each of them was pretty simple. No news there. But then we also wanted, along with that, and that took up most of the time, we had a working lunch, and we then talked about sharing opportunities, talked about economies of scale that we might be able to enjoy. We wanted to talk, if there was time, to talk about the National Public Safety Broadband Network and what the implications are for those for public safety radio systems here in the state. And then we wanted to discuss the role of the Arizona Public Safety Communications Commission and really how do they interact with and what role they play with these regional systems. And the last two, we really didn't get much time to spend at all on those, but we are now going to include those on our next meeting, which I'll share with you here in a minute. So this is really all I wanted to share with you today, is that forum bringing together probably just over 20 folks, both the system administrators and technical people. We shared the system briefings, which provided the understanding of the governance structure of each one of those. I don't think we had anything really unusual out of those that were any kind of serious challenges. I know myself and Bill Phillips have come down a couple of times to talk to Paul Wilson and the team that put together PC Wins here. I think they had a few unresolved governance issues, which I think helped to clarify how we've done that at the RWC and the TRWC level. The system briefings, which just was, as I mentioned, the technical structure of those 8 major regional systems, how they operate, those kind of things. Major project in progress to share. For example, the RWC right now is undergoing a $25 million complete infrastructure upgrade. We are moving to all 700 megahertz and making the whole system TDMA or narrowband capable in the event that we have to face the 2017 PSCC mandate to narrowband 700 megahertz. We don't think we're going to need to do that, but that was one of the issues that we're dealing with, and any of those kind of projects that are underway. Significant governance or technical challenges, as I mentioned. Discussion surfaced regarding several infrastructure sharing opportunities, and this is really where we're looking at cost savings. Is that once we understood what we're all doing and what locations we're setting up towers or we're doing anything like that, we then have the opportunity to say maybe we can share in that. And out of that meeting, right there in the meeting, is Northern Arizona Regional System expressed a need to expand to the west of Flagstaff. And Kevin Rogers, right there says, I guess we need to talk because we may be able to provide you some access to a tower or something that may do that. Similarly, we had the partnership with Maricopa County. They are completely upgrading their entire system across that county, so there's going to be multiple opportunities to share tower sites or those kind of things because they're going to be touching the entire county and they're going to be looking at upgrading lots of sites. One of those is Paradise Valley. Paradise Valley is one of our newest members. They have a site that's going to be all new. Maricopa County needed access to that same location. So as a result of this meeting and that conversation, we cut the price in half for both Paradise Valley and Maricopa County in the development of that site. And we hope to continue to have those kinds of conversations. We identified the critical need for modernizing the state public safety communication system. Mike already touched on that we see that site or that system as being the ability not only to provide operable communications for the state users, which they desperately need, but then on top of that is it provides the means for us to move anywhere in the state and have a standard-based system that we could interoperate with. I asked one of the fire folks in the fire union, I said, what is in it for your local fire departments out there in the hinterlands? He said most of those radio systems are old. They need modernization. It provides at least the opportunity with adding the sufficient capacity to be able to operate off of that network and be able to move away from some of the older systems they have. So that in the original plan for this, some of you around when the Project Crystal concept was around, that was the whole idea of providing that structure statewide that local agencies could participate on. We talked a little bit about first steps to support the state's public safety communication system through a coordinated outreach and education process. I probably have had a dozen conversations with various stakeholders, and they're asking questions about what is the RWC doing, what is the TRWC doing, and how do we replicate that statewide. Again, we didn't really discuss the role of the PSCC, but at our next meeting, which is scheduled now for December 9th, I've invited Justin and the staff to come in and brief us on, update everybody on what the role of the PSCC is and what its role is in helping to advocate on behalf of a statewide system. The other is we'd like an update on the National Public Safety Broadband Network. That's going to impact those regional systems through infrastructure into the future and that kind of thing. So we would like to hear what the latest is on that. And then again, we all recognize the value of that meeting. It was about 4 hours, but we should meet at least biannually to continue to share information and look for updates on progress and ability to save costs. So really, that's all I really had. I think out of that meeting, we got everything we wanted out of it. Now, as we move forward, in the next meeting that we have, one is we're going to be looking at updates for each of the systems. Two is going to be, again, looking for the information sharing opportunities. The third is going to be to have the PSCC office brief us on National Public Safety Broadband and the role of the PSCC. And then the last thing is I was looking for another topic. Justin, I think it'd be nice to share what's going on with the RW and the TRWC. We've been engaged in almost a month of discussions with them to look at reintegrating a unified governance and also a integrated system valley-wide. Where today we have two systems that are identical, sitting side by side. We are probably going to be looking over the course of the next year writing a new agreement to be able to unify those two systems under one. So I think that's the other topic we will probably, it will be timely for that period of time. So having said that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but want an opportunity to share that with you. Uh-oh, you're going to get back at me.
No, wasn't it administrative would be open to interconnection of those systems? I mean, long ago we talked about a systems approachable to a statewide system interconnection to our regional system. Would they be open to those kinds of things or discuss those at all?
We have, and I think they are looking for those kind of sharing opportunities. And I'll just give you the one example real quick. I know in the discussions with TRWC, it seems like the only way you can connect those systems is through membership, and I'd like to have some kind of an option that would be some form of membership where there could be reciprocal use of systems at no cost versus the only way you can join is to join the system, pay all the fees, and then pay a per radio cost. So I think I heard from everyone the willingness to open those systems up in whatever way we can to share that infrastructure.
I'd be curious if the commission, kind of what your guys' thoughts. We had some questions from the legislature, 6 months back, and there was kind of like give them an update. And a lot of the questions came through, I thought the way the PSCC topic was to create a statewide system. And, there's the statewide system, but there's also, as Mike pointed out, there's the training aspect, there's the planning aspect, there's how you program radio aspect, all stuff we talk about here. There seems to be layers and tiers to it, but the legislature was asked to stuck on this line of questioning that the role of PSCC was to create this statewide system. And I don't know that we necessarily have that power, that authority. We definitely don't have that legislature.
That's the problem. You know, we can put together a wish list statewide system all in one, something like that.
Right.
And so as individual major players in each region, who typically have relative bottom in that area, that they want to know what they're paying for and what they're getting back for it, and make it equitable to everyone, and to make it fair to everyone. People that are going to use the system should pay for their system, their portion of the system. Perfect world, you could open it up to everyone, so there's cost associated with everything. So until there's funding that comes down from the state, that allows us to open it up, using these resources that just don't have the funding to be able to get in and play at this level, our hands are tied. You know, again and again, over and over, we see federal mandates, state mandates come down, you know, what's associated with them, wish list ideas. And the reality is, we don't have the authority of this commission to mandate people open up their checkbook. So that's a dangerous assumption to think that we're going to do it that and we're going to make it happen.
I think while we don't have a mandate, we certainly don't have the funding. I think we would be remiss not to be looking strategically at how we could eventually do that and have a plan prepared. Long-term goal should be to say we've spent the last 5 years connecting the southwest side of the United States for information sharing. I would suggest your presentation gives a great reason to be looking at creating a similar radio.
It's interesting. The other kind of line of questions that seems to grab this question was, it seems that there was an assumption that once you invest in it, it was good to go. This is almost like railroad tracks, right? You buy it once and it lasts 30, 50, 60, 100 years. And I don't think that's
Can I make one comment? I think from our perspective, it's not the idea that the PSCC would be driving this in terms of developing the project plan and all that. You have state agencies, and I call them the big three. You have DPS, ADOT, and Corrections who have critical public safety needs for a radio system, and that it would be on the state to build that out for their own agencies. But we would be working with them. It seems crazy to me that, like in the Phoenix metro area, we have this very dense coverage and this large footprint that we would have the state overbuild and the county overbuild, when in fact maybe we can share infrastructure in some fashion that will take care of those needs, help support that, and drive the cost down for the state system. So I don't think it's the idea that the commission would take this on. I would see the commission as being an advocacy group, the stakeholder statewide of supporting the state's need for that radio system. That's more along the lines, I think, when we're talking about it, is how do we support that? No different than the local systems, just educating and be there to support it, because there is something in it for the local system.
So when we're working on grants or programs, a lot of times we're constantly trying to compare them, right? And each state is very unique. Rhode Island is completely different from Texas, right? So are there other states out there that are further ahead than Arizona? Are you guys aware of what are good models of look at? That's a contracting mechanism, business bar, accounting, get all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Very similar to the work we do together with the private sector education. There's a lot of dollars that are really back to the I would say those two states wake up on. In addition, Mr. Chairman, Arkansas covered their part of every county fire.
That's a bit the problem with some of the states, and they have different highways, infrastructure, and that's where, it's important to kind of compare and contrast what works. That's why I always use kind of Texas and Rhode Island as kind of polar opposites. So, if you're taking an option, Rhode Island, it's not so hard.
I mean, one thing too, I think, is you look at the number of states that you have, say, like, they have Ohio. I run down the line, we're probably not very much there at all.
So Mike, back to your point on the grant, and Gil, I'm going to direct it to you and Jackson project. The federal government kind of goes through kind of peaks and valleys and kind of that. It seems to me that some of the some of that
build out that backbone and also support FirstNet as well as the radio system.
Mr. Chairman, members, also, the funding that was, and the things that Mike Corral just explained, those were put in place because these large systems were not necessarily up to the task. So that can't be diminished. That's the short-term fix. But the larger-term fix, you're right, Director hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of money. It is not going to come from this commission, and it's not, I don't see it taken away from the grants you have because they're too small. They're intended to be other things. It is going to take a large investment over a long period of time to build out a state system that would be compatible and used by the regional systems as these resources move around the state. So
Another question back to the commission. So, not to beat them out clean, but I mean, this is what we do. We eat, breathe, live this. But how much of a priority? And you've got day-to-day work, you've got day-to-day operations. And a lot of times, I tell this to constituents in a lot of our projects all the time. They hear it from me all the time. The problem, the problem, the problem, the problem. But I really need to understand from your guys' perspective, what is what's the priority, who's coming up in the operations, what's something that you would like to think about, and I mean, what's the magnitude and scope and impact and very well.
I think it changes depending on what's going on at the time. I mean, we'll have a Super Bowl coming up pretty soon. That's going to be, that'll be a time where we do something like that.
Yep.
Or, Arizona, or flooding issues. It matters in the game.
Yep.
The reality is, financial impact is just keep like going away. The only work is started by, we're trying to come up with, blue towns, housing, police department, housing, our local areas, make our operable areas functional. We don't even talk about how we're going to talk to our neighbors every day, as much as how we're going to talk to issues on the state. So, safeguarding doesn't lay down. So we have to understand that when we're putting something up like that, it's expandable and available to roll whatever system that is in place 20 years down the road. My crystal ball is cracked. I have never been to look 20 years down the road. Our pretty good guess is going to be the new radios we're buying right now. So, we're pretty good guess that we're spending $117 million on the radio system. We're not going to be buying a new system for 20 years. You're up to higher levels.
Oh, right.
Same conversations, just like before.
To answer your question about how large of a priority it is, of all the things that we do, we're at 5, I guess we did 6.
for the legislature to come back to them. We got some different stuff. All right, moving on to the agenda. Statewide interoperability executive committee update. Mark and Mike.
You good, Joe? Chairman Sandine, members of the commission, all you fabulous people in the audience. My name is Mike Sacco. I'm a captain of the Sheriff's Department here in Pima County. I'm assigned to the PC Wind project. I've been with the project for forever, it seems like. And hopefully soon we'll have a new radio system. I'm also I would say the newest, I'm not really the newest member. I'm the recently elected co-chair for the statewide interoperability executive committee. And so we had a meeting September 17th, and I just want to go over real quick. And Justin, did you put this together? Thank you. Just put together a nice slide presentation. We'll just go through it real fast. Actually, we met on the 4th, not the 17th. The agenda item, we had a new SIEC member that we needed to appoint. Annual review of technical PSPs. The request for input on the 2014 federal TA programs application. Update on the communications unit training and recognition program. And then we had a couple of presentations on the National Public Safety Broadband Network and also multiple project updates in the PSCC office. We also set the 2014 SIEC meeting schedule. Mr. Scott Tillman from Department of Public Safety, Wireless Services, Wireless Systems Bureau, rather, resigned from the SIEC. He's been on there. He's been on the committee since July of 2005. According to the principles, the operating principles, the co-chairs are responsible for unanimously deciding who will be a replacement. In this case, we were provided a recommendation by DPS, Kevin Rogers, and Scott, both recommended Jeremy Knoll from Wireless Systems. Very well qualified, and he was unanimously selected to replace or try to replace that. We went into an annual review of the technical PSPs, the policy standards and procedures. There are several that we looked at: the Land Mobile Radio Minimum Equipment Standards, the Arizona Interoperable Channels Plan and Priority Programming Guide, the AIRS State Plan, the SOPs, and the Improvement and Sustainability Plan for the AIRS system. Each document was reviewed for content, conformance with existing standards, technical corrections, broken links formats, and this commission, this body, will be looking at those today as well. Overall, there were very few changes. During the discussion, there were a few changes. The few changes we did have, changing the minimum character display, the recommendation to be 8 instead of 7, just to line up with the land mobile equipment standards. The AIRS SOP, removing some of the NIFOG related content, superfluous. So we just thought we'd put it someplace or reference it elsewhere. So we wouldn't have to maintain referencing these documents or keeping them up to date simultaneously. For the AIRS improvement, use generic GPS contacts rather than individuals. Again, we don't have to update every time somebody moves from one off to the next, even if it is infrequent. And incorporate the priority programming guide as an appendix in the channels plan. So it's all in one document. We also heard a presentation from the OEC's Interoperable Communications Technical Assistance Program. Technical assistance requests are submitted annually by the PSCC office. The committee reviewed each of those initiatives along with relevant offerings, or key offerings. And the committee expressed support in particular for those technical assistance programs related to statewide kick fog and COMT Train the Trainer course. We'll sign off. jurisdictions are also encouraged to submit requests and their feedback to the PSCC office by September 10th. As far as the NIMS Communication Unit Work Groups recognized 20 Arizona Regional All-Hazard COM-Ls or 5 COM-Ts, and there's a listing here in the different disciplines. They recognize, those individuals represent agencies from 6 counties and listed in the Arizona All-Hazard Communications Resource. And it's on the PSCC website. Areas needing improvement. There are currently 9 Arizona-based COM-L instructors and 2 COM-T instructors. COM-T instructors in particular is a needs gap that we need to fill, primarily because it's very expensive to bring in COM-Ts from outside of the area to provide those COM-T classes. Also, the shortage of COM-Ls and COM-Ts to sign off on position task books. Even though instant commanders can sign off on those as well as the supervisors, it's nice to have the COM-Ls and the COM-Ts there to act as a mentor, provide some specific feedback. Lack of incident events for the task book sign-off. Lack of continuing education opportunities for renewal candidates. Lack of awareness of the value of the communications unit among executive leadership and incident command. May speak to the point we were just referencing in the last discussion. And the lack of awareness of the value of certified agency operations. So planning is underway for the field day, to be held in Maricopa County. Individuals interested should contact Blake through the PSCC office at his webmail or email address rather. Additional all-hazard COM-L and COM-T courses are being planned for 2014. When I recall, there were 5 already planned, 5 and 2.
Assuming we get all the funding, Congress passes the budget, and Homeland Security gets the grant, and we get the sub-grant, all we have is the central RAC grant right now.
And there's actually a handout for the Executive Leadership Seminar on Public Safety scheduled for November 19th. Again, speaking to the need of having those communications professionals at these events, available for these events. The next SIEC meeting is October 15th. We'll be up in Phoenix again. And the meeting schedule for 2014 is listed in the handouts as well. Are there any questions from the commission? Thank you.
Next up is Wade to walk through the annual review for technical policy standards and procedures.
Present today. In your packet is the different standards that we'll be going through today. So let's make sure that I can do this. Just a quick review of what we do. Most of the all of the PSPs have stabilized, and so we're now establishing a review cycle where we will go through some PSPs quarterly, so that we don't inundate you with too much at one meeting to have to look through. We will put these out for public review and comment, and then in receiving those comments from the public, we'll present them in a draft form to you and go out to work groups and subject matter experts, and then return with suggestions to the committee for your vote. So if no revisions are needed, the last review date will be updated and the document posted to the website. If revisions are needed, appropriate drafts will be reviewed and presented for approval. So each document here has been reviewed for content updates and conformance with SCIP initiatives and other PSPs. We also want to keep in conformance with our national communications plan and guidance from the Office of Emergency Communications and the Department of Homeland Security. Technical corrections, broken links, format, etc. are also looked at. In July to September, we try to do our technical PSPs. That's what we have in front of us today. In just a moment, we'll go through those. The two errors that are right at the top are under the purview of the SIEC, and the two, actually 2B2, hopefully, three right here, there, Land Mobile Radio Equipment Standards and the Interoperable Channels and Priority Programming Guide under the purview of the PSCC. Our technical review cycle started August 7th with an email sent out to stakeholders requesting feedback. As of August 21st, no comments had been received, and so the internal review of the PSP started. No changes were identified for core content. However, all technical PSPs require some update in the format of the document so that we can get all the format standard. We are not looking for any changes to information inside of the documents. We are looking to make sure that the format is standardized. We did present and request feedback from the SIEC. We'll discuss what they had to say. You've already seen that in the previous presentation. Today we're here for your feedback. Early September drafts were sent out to interested parties on the email list and posted on the website. We're looking in early October for approval of draft and revisions to be released. And hopefully in October we can get the, October 15th we'll get the SIEC presentation approval, and November 19th present anything to this group for its approval. So moving right along in your packet right there, working from the back forward, there is the statewide interoperability. About 8 pages in. We've printed this double-sided, and it makes it a little hard, but we wanted to make sure we were as light on our resources as we possibly could be. The air state SOP is the second one in. Let me move on and just go to the improvement plan first, which is your first one in from the back. This was what we would like to do here is move the definitions from the appendix to the appropriate new template selection section, which is a definitions section in the book. The SIEC recommended the use of generic GPS contact information in an appendix instead of specific names, and that is all of the change that we, the only changes that we have for this document. And I'm going to just pause for a second and ask if there is any question from the Commission on this document, if there's any other changes you've seen. I have to step back and put my glasses on, or I can't see what I've got in front of me here.
So it's just up to you, notification contact goes to the appendix.
That is correct. Those are the only two changes that we have for this document right now.
And this document was just approved a year ago. Actually, we're working with 3 agencies, or excuse me, different jurisdictions right now on the actual process for, requesting areas of infrastructure changes, et cetera. So we really don't have much change in the procedure at that point, but we want to bring it up to the latest and greatest template, with the primary goal of having all of our policies and procedures follow the exact same template, so no matter what document you had, you knew where to look to find people.
Okay, hearing nothing. P is the next largest document. It's from the back, 20 pages in, and look, it reads the Arizona Interagency Radio System Air State Plan. This one is missing a definition section that we'd like to add. The SIEC recommended that the NIFOG-related content and tables included in the interoperable channels plan, and the programming guide now be removed from the AIRS SOP. And so we would actually take the priority programming guide and fold it into the Arizona Interoperable Channels Plan, and taking all of that information out and actually just referencing it so that we only have one document to update. No data, nothing's changing other than just finding it in a single point versus several locations where we would have to update that information. Those are the changes to this document. So in a moment we'll be speaking about the Arizona Interoperable Channels Plan, but in this document we're giving you the information here that we're taking all the NIFOG related content out of that and leaving in there. Okay, seeing we'll move on then, seeing no changes there. Land mobile radio minimum standards is the very first page of your document. It's about 3 pages long. Here we had missing definitions and references. Also, the SIEC recommended that we change the character display recommendation from 7, as seen here, to 8. All agreed that they had not seen a radio that didn't have at least 8 characters. That would be certainly an update if you were wanting that done. Yes.
I quote that item. Now we're buying multi-band radios that are tri-band, dual band. So like say I buy a VHF, also 700 megahertz, one B25 required, one just has cable.
Okay. Have we got that noted? Okay. Is there anything else before the commission? Okay. The next one is the minimum standards. Did we get to each one of them? The interoperable channels plan. That is the second one in there. The interoperable channels plan is missing definitions and references. Yes, IEC recommended that the priority programming guide as made an appendix to allow for a single document requiring only one vote. So in other words, we'd fold the priority programming guide into this document as an appendix. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, if there's any input, please let our office know. I realize this is a lot of material to go through and to see, but we are looking for any input that you might have, especially for these two documents. Oh, I apologize. That the very last one of your set would be the template that we would like to go with. It looks much like the standard operating sustainability improvement of the very last one in your packet.
So that's an update. All of them will use that template.
Will look very much like that, yes. It even needed a few updates, but it will look and feel like that.
Most of the changes are like the interoperable panel plan, where when we originally did these, we didn't have a section for definitions. We didn't have a section for references. Sometimes we had references just incorporated in footnotes, other times in parentheses and paragraphs. This is just to keep it all standard throughout all of that.
So one other question I have for you. These are all off of the PSCC website, wherever it's stored. So one thing we should probably talk about is where that website is posted. Some of the things that I've learned from some of the meetings we've had at first, state infrastructure is not always the best place to host something. So this is, if these are documents that you should reference, you want to have multiple program or have some type of failure.
Okay, Mr.
Storing your data center right now.
Yeah, not necessarily a good set I recommend. I have challenges in the data center.
Chairman, have we ever considered putting it on the information network? You know, we haven't looked into it recently. Several years ago, when we first started our PSC development effort, we looked at the insight at the time, the national information, interoperability sheet, something like that. And it was a challenge at that point for version control and other things. But as you know, the federal government has made huge advances in their information sharing, collaboration, and technology. We can certainly look at least having backups in business as well.
So yeah, can you take note of that and let's talk about some of these things that
We'll do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Justin, you're a interoperable communication and technical assistance program. Questions regarding the 2014 request?
And I saved the giving away goodies presentation for myself. As you all probably know by now, this is, I believe, the 5th or 6th year of this program. The federal government, in addition, Homeland Security, in addition to giving out monetary grants, has the Interoperable Communication Assistance Program, or the TA program. The purpose of the program really is to support interoperability, support the ability of responders to communicate, and from an emergency comms perspective nationwide. Every year, our office and kind of the SWC's office in each state can submit up to 5 requests on behalf of the state to the Fed for technical assistance. The whole online process catalog is up there. Some of the key elements of the TA process: one, it has to conform to a state's existing strategic communications plan and align with one of those initiatives, or align with identified gaps through what used to be the TCA process, now the CYBRA process. Second, obviously apply up to 5. This year, the Office of Emergency Communications, they've been changing their priorities every year the last few years. This year, they are going to be priorities that either are in support of broadband or they're skip goals for multi-state collaboration. That's kind of the heading or the direction that he has been heading recently is, you know, we've been sending lots of money to the states, and when something bad happens up in Colorado, the neighboring states in the region need to be using their resources and sending them up there as well and help kind of two focuses on a national level right now, but of course for us we need to be focused on the state and local level and what's most important for our needs. Just a quick look back last year, our office has been very successful in getting technical assistance requests. Over the course of the year, we had 5 different TA requests. We started off with a communications-focused tabletop exercise up in Coconino County. These are actually extremely valuable assets, and that was a great TTX up there following their Goal 2 gap closure activities. This TTX both helped to validate a lot of closed gaps, but then also identify some new gaps that need to be addressed. Then we held a CompT training course up in Flagstaff as a component of the TA, and Mike, I believe that was one you taught up there. And then the Division of Emergency Management, in support of our State Strategic Technology Reserve, we started off the year asking for a concept of operations document / SOP for one of the mobile comms vehicles that ADEM had. And then we got the TA, and so we kept talking to them. And then we said, you know, instead of just a TA, we actually have 5 toads and a bullfrog. Can't we get an SOP for all of those? And they said, yeah, sure. And then we said, well, how can we keep expanding this? And so we're going to eventually turn it into a template that we can give out to other agencies so that local agencies with their own mobile comms vehicles have a template to start off with. But we've got that SOP completed. And Karen later will talk about an additional effort that came towards the end of the year, turning it into a video SOP for the deployment of the toads in particular. And so that's been a great TA that we finished up. And then still in progress, and this is one, a broadband TA that we'll be working on for the next year and a half that's already been awarded to us. Just everything in support of the National Public Safety Broadband deployment that OEC can provide. On top of all of that, the City of Yuma is part of the Border Interoperability Demonstration Project, which is another Homeland Security grant program. As part of their effort, City of Yuma has also been requesting TAs through that. It's different funding stream, but essentially the same TA support. Through that process, they've been able to got their TICP updated and had a TICFOG, Tactical Interoperable Communications Field Operations Guide, developed and printed. They're in the process right now of a communications-focused functional exercise, and that's the planning for that has been ongoing throughout the year, and that's occurring up here on October 1st. Then about a month ago, they held a communications-focused exercise workshop, a day-long workshop on how to incorporate comms into normal public safety exercises, as opposed to some of the communication-specific exercises like the TTX or the functional. What can we do to make sure that whenever an agency is holding an exercise, they're incorporating communications into that? So that was a great workshop there, and they were recently awarded an SOP development TA to help out with some of the equipment that was purchased as part of the BIDP project. So all in all, those are 9 separate TAs through both of these programs that Arizona received, and I'll also mention the Navajo Nation recently was also awarded a technical assistance as part of the tribal TA program. So the timeline here, August 5th, the catalog was released. We sent it out to the interested parties list like we always do. We went to the SIEC, and Captain Sacco informed me of the SIEC's input. We're here today to ask for your comment and thoughts on this. What we'll do is after we get your feedback, the feedback from the public, feedback from the SIEC, we'll put together a list of the 5 potential TAs for the state of Arizona. We're required to get the concurrence of the state administrative agency, Arizona Department of Homeland Security, and then by September 27th, we will get our TAs submitted to OEC. The questions, and for those who have been on commission for a while, you probably recognize this slide because it's the exact same slide we use every year. You know, these are the questions we're kind of asking ourselves when we look at the catalog. There's about 50 different opportunities that we can request resources on, but we need to identify which assistance requests should be given higher priority, which ones should not be prioritized, which ones align the most with our SCIP or local areas. So I've got this broken down into the kind of the 5 lanes of the continuum and our 12 SCIP initiatives. And we went through and did an analysis of which TAs line up with which SCIP initiatives, and were there any that were valuable. So our first SCIP initiative of expanding the interoperable voice and data communications governance model, this is kind of the statewide governance level. There are some statewide planning workshop TAs that are available in governance. We have received no requests from the public or feedback from the public on requesting these types of TAs. My general feeling is that from a statewide level, our governance is fairly well established in advance, and we're not in the need of using up one of our TAs on that. But if there are other ideas or opportunities, certainly speak up. Initiative 2 in governance is the one that deals with developing regional communications governance structures. And this is something that our office is putting a priority on both this year, last year and this year with the development of TICPs, and then next year looking to develop more active and formalized regional governance structures in the areas that don't have any. But there are a number of different TAs that kind of fit under this. Obviously, CASM, TICPs is a key component of this initiative. Both Pinal County specifically and then the SIC in general has expressed an interest in the TICFOG TA. Every year for the last couple of years we've kind of talked about this. Yuma has a TICFOG, Phoenix has a TICFOG, everybody kind of wants it. Now that we have a statewide TICP, by the end of this year every county will have their own TICP. This may be one that it's time to consider doing. Now, one challenge, of course, is you get the TICFOG, but then you got to print those, and those in general run between $30 to $35 a booklet. So costs always come into play. There's also, Pinal County had also sent in a request for a TICP update workshop. We already have some grant funds that can support the TICP update there in the East RAC, and so our office is working with and feel that we can use existing grant funds to meet this need without using up one of the 5 TA requests. There's also, some other TA opportunities there. Were there any TAs that kind of stood out for you guys in the realm of the governance area? And I think with our existing grant projects that we have this year and some other fundings, we've got a lot of these already taken or into consideration. From a TICP or TICFOG level, a statewide TICFOG may be appropriate. I think going county by county certainly is going to cause problems, simply because that means our COMLs are going to have to carry around 15 different books instead of just one. But whether or not that's the highest priority right now, or there's other TAs we can kind of get to in a little bit. The third of our governance initiatives is the one that deals with supporting national level goals and making sure that, this is basically encompasses plain language, broadband, meeting the NACP goals, those types of things. There are a number of different TAs in here. There is a training workshops on simply principles of interoperability in the NIFOG, and this kind of gets to what Mike was talking about earlier. This is a class that's more designed for the end user, not for the communications community. It's, do you know what's in your radio? Do you understand what the NIFOG channels are and how they're used and what is interoperable? There are some TAs for operational communications assessments where federal facilitators will come in and study your existing comm environment and conduct a needs assessment of it. We did not have any requests for feedback kind of in this realm or requests for support in this realm this year. In the SOP lane, again, we've got a solid PSP framework right now, 9 separate PSPs across 3 categories. There are some different opportunities. There's one communications unit planning and policy TA that might be valuable. Obviously, in SOP development, Division of Emergency Management did submit a request for an update to the state's alerts, notification alert and warning system. That SOP is many years old right now, and so that's kind of in their minds the next step of the development of their SOPs is kind of where they're thinking. Anything in the PSD realm? Within technology, I'm not going to go through each one of the different initiatives. There are a lot of technology-related technical assistance offerings that are available. The key element, though, of course, is a lot of this is about analysis and planning. This isn't. It certainly can't be used for equipment purchases, although there is a TA for radio reprogramming if there's a specific type of need. I will mention there is also a TA for planning so that for the Super Bowl, we can make a request of OEC to come out and assist with that as well. There really aren't any TAs that deal or that could support the AIRS initiative, the microwave build-out. There is one TA that Adam did highlight for us, the Strategic Technology Reserve Emergency Management Assistance Compact. This was the TA that was actually developed for the southeastern United States for 9 states. We want to have a multi-state TIC-FOG, basically, or a multi-state tactical interop comms plan, where all of the states list out all the assets that we have, and we develop a way of sharing the assets among all the states. We're still trying to finalize our state TIC-P, and our neighboring states are still working on theirs. So I don't know that this particular initiative would be valuable at this time, simply because the multi-state sharing component of that, there's a lot of work that needs to be done with our neighboring partners until that comes up there. But this certainly could give us an opportunity to have those discussions over the a couple of the other TAs, certainly at the regional level. I mentioned earlier the operable communications assessment. We did have public feedback on some of these as being good ideas, although no agency specifically requested the support for their area. Things like the P25 LMR workshop, radio programming and training. There is, audio gateway training available, looking at LMR systems migration, those types of things. In the training and exercise, and this is the area where we've received the most feedback, both from the SIEC, a couple of the training items that were brought up. One, training OXCOM, or the communications workshop. This is a workshop, it's actually a 2-day workshop that's really geared towards temperature radio support of emergency communication, whether it's through the county emergency management or through some other areas. But there are a number of the counties in Arizona where the OXCOM units play a very significant role. In fact, here in Pima County, I believe it's the RACES unit here that is very well integrated with a lot of the operations. So this is a training opportunity that's brought to our eyes. COML courses, as we mentioned earlier, we probably already have some grant funding for COMLs, and the COML classes are actually pretty cheap for us to put on. COMT classes, on the other hand, right now there are only 3 nationwide that teach the COMT course. Two of the instructors for one of those companies are right here in Arizona, but those are still rather significant. So holding a COMT course may be important for us. We've had 3 CompT courses in Arizona, trained 82 students, because we've been pushing lots of students through those courses, more than we're supposed to. But one of the newer offerings this year that really is kind of addressing the issue of not enough CompT trainers is there's now a train-the-trainer course available, and there's a technical assistance offering to request that. If we were to request this, we would obviously need to identify a number of individuals to go through that training course so that we could develop an Arizona cadre of instructors. 3 years ago, we sent, I believe it was 9 students through the COML train-the-trainer course, and that's one way we were able to build up a group of Arizona instructors. This would certainly help us out in terms of having enough instructors here locally to continue to build out and expand our communications unit training program. Again, mentioned earlier, we have plans for up to 5 COML courses and another CompT course with some of our existing grants, assuming that all the award processes go through. Within the exercise lane, one of the challenges that you saw on Captain Sacco's presentation, one of the gaps that we have right now is we have 280 plus people who have gone through the COML course and 20 who have been able to complete the CASPA and have gone through the state's recognition program. We have a number, that's 260 people who have attended the course but have not been able to pass. And it is a daunting process. There are the opportunities to be on an incident or to be involved in an incident where you're able to get some of those tasks can be a challenge. So we created our own field day to help address that, but there's also to address it. One is the all-hazard COML exercise. This TA allows up to 9 COMLs to attend a day-long exercise, and it is a full-scale kind of, or not a full-scale exercise, but it is an HC compliance and actual exercise as opposed to the kind of the training environment that we set up in the field day. And then there's the communications unit exercise. This TA supports both COMLs and CompTs, although it's 6 and 6, so a total of 12 people during the day. Because it's run as an exercise, it's really restricted on the amount of folks that can go. If we can demonstrate a significant enough need for it, we can be held for 2 days so that we could double it. Again, both a number of feedback from the public on the COMLEX or the communications exercise TA from the SIEC, ADEM, and the general public. And in the usage lane, there really are no TAs that kind of line up with that, but there are a couple of specific ones that I want to highlight. The Special Project Management one and Native American Public Safety Communication. We've had the project management one. We held the beta workshop, test workshop of that 2 years ago. It was a good day-long workshop. If there are agencies that are looking at massive communications projects coming up, we would certainly want to talk with them about that. And then I'll highlight that for all of the tribes in Arizona, one completed their reporting to the federal government for NACP Goal 2. They are eligible to receive tribal TAs, and the feds are more than willing to help them and be involved with them on their technical assistance supports. So with that, we've covered the SIEC recommendations, some of the specific agency requests. NUMA, on behalf of the Southern RAC, requested a COML course. Canal County requested TICP and a TICFOG. ADEM, an SOP for the alert notification plan, and then the multi-state compact. These were the only specific agency requests that we received. We did have a few general feedback. I do not want it, but nothing in terms of, I want my agency to have that. As I mentioned, on almost all of those, we already have existing grant funds that we can use to help advance those. So with that, I'd kind of like your feedback on Are there specific areas that you see us focusing on, either specific initiatives or specific TA requests?
Just to review, those exercises, the day-long exercises that put together with the COMLs and the COMLs, did that allow them to get the workbook signed off?
They were able to get signed off. They can't do all of the tasks at this particular one. One of them, for example, in the COMLs is you have to, be responsible for the morale and welfare of health and safety of, your people. And that's not something that we could do during the field day itself, but you got to show you're a leader and you have to have people to lead. But there were, I believe, 7 tasks that were able to get signed off as part of the field day. No, yeah, it's pretty substantial.
It seems to me that's where the deficit is. We've got 260 people walking around with training, 200 folks signed off. And rather than putting on more and more classes for individuals to spend a weekend in the classroom and not get certification signed off, we need to focus on getting the 260 that have already spent the weeks in class to get the opportunity to get actually come out and compete.
Absolutely. And that's a need that I think for the last couple of years we've been looking at is how do we address that challenge of getting these people to have the experience they need. It's always a problem we've worked in, and hopefully we'll have a discussion at a future meeting about what, I'm going to call you out here, what Greg Peters is doing down here in Pima County to help mentor people, because he's doing a great job in identifying people who have taken the course and need, just short, brief bits of training to do one task at a time. We're going to be working with the NIMS Communications Unit work group on identifying what are some ways, besides just the field day and the COML or COM-unit exercise, that we can help partner people up and get somebody deployed to go with Mike, and get their agencies in particular to support the payment of that resource to go with Mike so that they can get that firsthand training when they need it. Yeah.
4 guys.
You need 4 of them. And to that end, I'm sorry I'm going to steal your thunder, but I want to make sure we get it. It was mentioned earlier, on November 19th, from 9 to noon before the next PSCC meeting, we're holding a workshop specifically geared toward executive leadership, incident command, value of the communications unit. And we've got 3 great presenters lined up. Captain Worrell will be talking from his perspective on being a COML on these major incidents and how the COMS unit can support the incident command and operations perspective. Lieutenant Brian Lee from the city of Phoenix, he's been their ops section chief on almost every major incident that Phoenix has had over the last 5 years. And he's going to talk from the incident command ops section chief's perspective on what a COML does. And then, and I'm forgetting Katie, Lieutenant Mark Cady from Massachusetts is a comms tech who's intimately involved in Hurricane Sandy operations and is part of the Massachusetts Communications Unit program, the program that they have. And so he's going to talk about a lot of the lessons learned from that perspective. And we really do need your help promoting this workshop amongst the incident command to help command understand the value of the comms unit and why it's important that these COML trainees be given the opportunity to be deployed and to get the skills and experience necessary.
So will any of these technical systems help push the around some of those things? So there's those 2.
In particular, the complex.
Complex, right?
Yeah.
Complex says so the 6 COMLs, right? So that would help, at least do 6, if not double it up to these things, right?
Correct.
One thing we're running into is the first round of COMLs that we did, all the people, like 100 or so that we trained at 5 classes a week.
Yeah, 2009.
They had to do a task coming up, they have to retake the class, all of them. Yeah. So.
does it have to be an incident, or can it be more of an exercise, like the NEP?
It actually varies. A number of the tasks have to be either performed at an incident or an exercise. Some of them don't have to be at any of them. But there are a number of them where you specifically need to perform it at, in a real world scenario. I think it's better than calling it an incident.
So David, to your point, some type of communication would roll out that, okay, you're going to invest in training, you don't do that. You've got to be flexible enough that when an incident happens, you've got to be ready to close them. Justin, can you guys take that out?
And that's a recommendation that we can look at in the future in terms of a prerequisite to attending some of these courses is a letter of support or understanding from the individual's agency of what, it's not just attending the course, they're going to need the agency support as well.
It really goes back to the executive level support of understanding that you're going to run an operational exercise with all these communications components, but they're not always actually part of the exercise. It's just that they put into the radio system, but there's no common area of constantly brought in to handle that. And it's an opportunity.
Yeah, and that's good. Example, for the City of Yuma's functional exercise coming up in October, they've designated ComHealth for the exercise so that they can get a couple of people signed off at the same time as part of both testing the radio system itself, but and it doesn't have to be a COM-specific exercise. Any exercise like that.
Any other one that you guys had any interest on?
I think that's a good suggestion. Yeah, Chair. I think it sounds as if we're involved, but there's a shelf life to that training, and if you don't accomplish it, I'm not sure what we're doing. So that would be important if you really help with that. And I like the
Should we even personalize it, and should we go back to, do you have a record of people's training and labs and be able to be more specific?
Yeah.
I think we should talk about that and see if we can more specific.
Thank you. To follow up, just to frame expectations, even though we're very good at getting the TAs, typically, assuming that everything goes well, the first round of awards would happen in early October with any follow-up awards happening later. Typically what they do is they award every state one right off the bat. Then they look at seeing how much money they have, and they award them in a rolling process starting around January, February after that. So we should be hearing back rather shortly, at least on one of the requests.
All right, so thank you very much. Karen, go ahead.
I'll tell you sort of one thing I wanted to take advantage of while we were here is we have our newest COM teacher after that conversation. Frank Brady is our newest one. He was just approved. So he's from this area. So just for those of you that are from here, here you go. You got a new resource. He's got his FL signed off. I know we have a couple others in the audience that have gone through ComL ComC class and are certified. You guys can raise your hands. So you've got a good group right here. So we've got a good jumping off point. Kind of go hand in hand with what we've been talking about. Really quick, we've got a couple TIC-Ts coming up. We call our 3Gs. The Heligram and Greenland are having their TIC-T on September 24th up in Stafford. Yavapai is having theirs October 16th in Prescott Valley. Magic. We did get our SLIB grant for broadband on August 16th, $2.9 million. We're getting ready to get that kicking off, and we've been having some meetings with the Arizona group, trying to make sure everybody's on board. Rico, yay, we got our 6 sites up, so we're all done. Kevin's done the happy dance. So. And Zoom is also scheduling with the dispatch centers that are getting equipment to have their interrupt channel that they can talk to each other. So that'll be coming up. They're going to be scheduling the installation of that equipment. Just to go along with the ComL ComTs, right now we have 20 ComLs that are recognized and 6 ComTs in the state that are recognized. We do have another field day coming up. I don't think you actually got to talk about that. But we are doing another field day in January, or I'm sorry, not January, but the first quarter of next year. Glade is coordinating that. He's trying to get some volunteers to help put that together. If you have people that you think should be involved in that, please contact Glade. His cards are on the back table if you need one. Our information is also on the website, so you can always get it there. Looking forward to that. I think it was a great opportunity. We got really good feedback this year when we did it, so we're looking forward to the next one. And the thing that's most important is to make sure that you guys know when your meetings are for 2014. So this is on the website if you need it. Justin will also be sending calendar notices out to remind you so that you don't miss it. And we've got one that's going to be up in Flagstaff, one that's going to be here again about the same time of year. And the new SIEC meetings were put up there earlier in our SIEC presentation. And I think that's all that you really want to know about because you want to go home. So thanks.
Our next meeting will be November 19th. Yeah, from 9 to noon is the Public Safety Executive Leadership Seminar, and then from 1 to 3 will be the commission meeting. And that will be in 80 Way 300 in Phoenix.
Any calls from the public? With that, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.